Hey everybody, R&D Lee here, bringing you another tech talk. Today we are going to dive into Matrix 3 adjustments. So I got my personal board here, and I'm just going to show you a few kind of tips and tricks about adjustment to make things easier for you, make sure you get the most out of your Matrix 3s. So basically, the most important thing to know is that there are three levels of adjustment on the Matrix 3, okay? The first two are the same as the old ones, the Matrix 2s, and those two are, number one, the first level of adjustment is just compressing your shock blocks, okay? So on the bottom side here, you can see there's an adjustment screw, all right? So you have a 4 mil hex, and what you do simply is you just use your 4 mil hex to tighten that up, and that is actually compressing the shock block, so increasing the turning resistance. Now, when you're doing that, there's a couple things to keep in mind. One is do both sides the same, because if you do one side more than the other, then you end up with kind of a wonky truck that wants to turn. So checking the distances, making sure that that rolls straight is one key thing. And the other is that you don't want to do too much compression. So if you really compress, like, 10 turns, things just start to get weird. There's more resistance on your kingpin, and it doesn't perform as well as it does without compression. So that will lead us into the next level of adjustment, which is kind of changing out your shock block. So our recommendation is a maximum of 2 turns, so 2 full turns on your compression. So that's pretty much it. It's straightforward. You just need a 4 mil hex, and you need to make sure that you've kind of done both sides the same. Moving on to the next one, level 2. Once you've kind of hit 2 turns and you're thinking, I still want to go a little bit, stiffer or anything like that, then that's when you want to swap out your shock blocks. We have 3 levels of shock block hardness. You start with your whites. In the old school, it used to be yellows, oranges, and reds. Now we've changed our yellow to a white. So this is our soft one, 78 durometer. Our oranges are an 85, and then our reds go up all the way up to a 95. So there's a huge range of hardness changes. So the next step, you've done your 2 turns and you still want it a little bit stiffer. What you're going to do then is swap out your shock blocks, and I'll give you right now a few tips on doing that. Number 1, you can see how my board, this is kind of my own personal board, so ignore the scratches and stuff like that, but have your board facing bottom up, okay? So if you're trying to adjust, like this and doing that way, gravity doesn't work that well for you because things are going to want to fall out. So my key, is always be kind of working with your board in your lap like this, with the bottom facing up. So swapping your blocks is actually really easy. First thing to do, I use this guy just because it makes it a little bit faster. You guys can use your manual one, but first thing is just to remove both of your adjustment screws. Okay, so once you've done that, I just go ahead and slide both of these guys out. So I'm sliding out the shock blocks and the actual kind of like bottom shock block retainers, which are now kind of separated. So I just take those guys, swap them over. Then I'm going to go and grab a new set, go up to the oranges, crack your packaging open, grab a couple oranges, and then I just swap the retainers over. So I put them next to them, swap your retainers. This is kind of like your bottom shock block retainer. Swap it over, hold it in your hand, and then it's just simply sliding those guys in just like the other ones were. So that's one, and then on your other side. So I haven't done any screws or anything. I just kind of get those guys in there. They're ready to go, and that's pretty much it. Next step is you're ready to actually tighten up your screws. Now, there's one kind of key little tip trick is you want to make sure that you get the hole lined up. Otherwise, if you're kind of like on an angle, you could risk actually like cross-threading your threads. You don't want to do that. So on these, there's a slight amount of like lateral preload. So you want to just press in a little bit, like open your truck a little bit on the one that you're going to screw in, and just kind of press in with your finger to kind of push the shocks in. And that, you'll know when it kind of drops into place. You'll actually feel it. And then from there, it's easy. You just want to tighten your adjustment screw. You really only need to kind of go past flush, so they're not like sticking out below your hanger. But you just want to make sure that it engages the that kind of like bottom aluminum shock block holder piece, that retention piece. But if you've gone too far, then that piece will start to drop down and you're actually compressing your shock. So just kind of get it in there and then move on to your next one. Same thing, pop it in the hole. I push in and then wait for it to kind of drop so I can feel it, hold it in place, and then tighten things up. And that's pretty much it. So from there, you go back to, if you want to make fine adjustments, you're doing level 1 to kind of compress. Now, the third level, that's gonna handle things for most people, but one of the features of the Matrix 3 is there's actually a third level of adjustment that the Matrix 2 did not have, and that is changing your shock block positions. So it's basically the same thing that I just did in terms of changing your shocks, but there's just one extra step that you have to do. So going through that, level 3 Matrix 3 adjustment, you want to, same as level 2, you want to remove your screws, adjustment screws. Okay. You want to remove your shocks, just kind of slide these guys out, set them over here. Now the extra bit that you need to do for this third level of adjustment is you actually need to change the position. There's a top shock block holder, right? That actually needs to move over. So you need, once again, your trusty 4mm hex key, and you need to loosen that guy up. So this is one place where the details matter, and having your board, especially now, face up to where gravity is not wanting that retainer to kind of drop away. This helps a lot. The other trick I'll give you is on the first one, you can imagine that screw is kind of tight. So I use the small end, you know, like you would normally on a hex key, to just break the tension. But once you've done that, you can go and kind of keep doing that like normal. But I like to actually then go through the top. So these are currently in the outside position. I'm going to move them to the inside position. So go through that outside hole, and that allows you access kind of from the top to get to that screw that holds the retainer in. And then I just do a quick little, you know, twist on that guy. So it just saves a little bit of time. And I also kind of hold, when I remove this guy, I hold the that shock block retainer in place as I kind of slide it over to the new position. I hold that screw in place, and then I'm going through the inside position to access. I'm still holding that screw with my fingers so that I can get, once again, nice and straight, make sure it doesn't cross thread, and I just get that finger tight with the small end, take that guy out, and then finish things off with a nice kind of secure long end torquey. You don't need to like go crazy because these don't actually like come loose, but you don't crank the heck out of it because you don't want to like strip threads or anything, but you know, just give it a little bit of a nudge to make sure it's nice and secure. And then the same thing with this other side. We can fast forward this so you don't have to watch it. And then from there, you're ready just to kind of reinsert your shock blocks. Like I said, I've moved now from the outside position to the inside position, so this is actually making it easier to ride. Your shock blocks are in, and then you go and pop your adjustment screws in again. Like I said, a little bit of lateral preload, open it up, push, and then same thing on this side. So once you get used to it, it's actually it's pretty fast. It's pretty easy to change shock block positions, and the difference that it makes to your turning resistance is huge. Like I said, this Matrix 3s have the widest range of turning resistance of any truck ever, any MBS truck, just any truck on the market. And that is how you do the 3 levels of adjustment. So if you have any questions, obviously leave some comments down below, send us an email, call me on my cell, whatever you want to do, we'll kind of like respond to you and make sure you have everything that you need to have a good experience with this adjusting the new Matrix 3. That's it for now. Like, subscribe, leave comments below, and we'll see you next time.